Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a Western astrologer and Twin Flame channel, and this is a video with part 2 of a set of channeled messages for everyone who identifies under the umbrella of divine counterpart, twin flame, soulmate. Pick the label that feels true for you. This part 2 video will be an extension of everything I talked about in part 1, with some deeper insights into the polarized energies of divine masculine and divine feminine. So, in part 1, we looked at the channeled messages for divine connections from 2023 through 2028. I covered the first part of the access point to union. Going forward, now that the access is through the Aries gateway, I detailed what that would mean for our lives collectively and for us as individuals based on the overall frequency that Aries provides. The final definition that Aries speaks to has to do with the construct of masculinity and manhood itself, as Aries is the first masculine sign of the zodiac. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into what that means for divine masculine and feminine energetic fields, as well as people who identify as male and female, respectively. This access to union energy for the next 5-ish years is far more masculine and requiring of ownership of right use of masculine energies, regardless of whether you identify as male, female, or non-binary gender-wise. As I talk about this, I'm going to speak to quote men and quote women, but understand that the following 3 things will be true. Number 1, your gender identity is yours to define. So if you are trans, intersexed, or non-binary, and you feel that one or the other information set resonates with your true soul experience, apply it where it resonates for you. Number 2, what other people are doing with their gender identity is their concern and no one else's. While free speech is certainly an American value and alleged right, hate speech is not protected on this corner of the internet and it will be erased. So please leave what does not apply to you personally for those for whom it will apply. I'm a messenger for all, not just those who abide by certain rules, certain systems, and certain thought forms. Number 3, if your biology at birth created a clear path into a traditional gender role, male or female, know that you also still have both energetic systems running in you at all times. You'll have a feminine side if you identify as male. You'll have a masculine side if you identify as female. Please listen for where and how both are showing themselves in your life stream to make it easier to cultivate union within, and from there, see that union within mirrored externally to you in your outer world. Now, for those who identify in the feminine energy, many in a feminine form, female body, or feminine energy, will be required to don traditionally and historically masculine roles and own and drive masculine outcomes for the balancing of masculine energy on the planet. And you'll know this is you because you've got goals and dreams already in your heart that God put there that speak to this truth. All I'm doing is validating it. There is a liberation in this energy, a freedom to create even more if you identify in a feminine form, body, or energy. where your own internal masculine energy may have been abusive, controlling, restrictive, or manipulative to your feminine internal energy or to other people's feminine internal energy. This season is where you will start to unplug your internal masculine energy from the matrix identities of masculinity and plug into source so that you can create a new understanding of masculinity within. For those who identify in a masculine form, male body, or masculine energy, you'll find that you step into a redefinition of masculine energy and what it means and looks like to be a quote unquote man. Again, you'll know this is you because your goals and your dreams in your heart that God put there are already presenting to you in this way. Nothing you need to do or to figure this out. This is more about taking aligned action to render these goals and dreams real and resetting the expectations in connections with people around you who prefer you to fit their definitions of masculinity. And there are those of you who are definitively two spirited, non binary, or implode the gender lines as we know it. Even you in this energy are helping to rewrite the anchor points and definitions for masculinity, malehood, and manhood for the collective. Thank you for your service. For both energies, just as patriarchy created a lot of double binds for women, traps for women, limitations for those who identify in female form, female body, female energy, it has also created the same double binds and traps and limitations for those who identify as masculine, where we historically and culturally have rewarded men for being forward and initiating. Those same men have also been called aggressive and abusive in romantic situations. Now, there's a large spectrum in there, but you can see how if there's two messages and no in between, which is where we collectively have been, no in between, it can create a trap, a limitation, and a double bind. At this time, or historically, I should say, Western culture has encouraged men to be strong, to be tough, to use power and authority. But at the same time, as feminism has created much needed change for those in female bodies, there has been increasing expectation that men get in touch with their feelings, be able to cry. There's been an expectation for a man to accommodate those two extremes in the same body. And it's left a lot of those who identify as men, male, energy, or body form, uncertain and insecure in scenarios when it comes to dating, mating, and relating with modern women. The dualistic expectation that a man should be a gentleman and chivalrous. Many men have reported being greeted by, well, I can do it all by myself, a type of pushing away from women or people in a feminine form. There are many adult women, people in a female form or female energy that have aspired to be taken care of financially by those in a male form. But whereas women want these equal rights, Men are then expected to be opinionless about the use of the resources that have become harder and harder to come by due to incomes not keeping up with cost of living increases worldwide. So you see these kinds of double binds have created an energy of hesitation, stagnation for those who, with beautiful hearts, open minds, wanting to connect with those in the female form, have struggled to figure out how to reconcile. And if some of today's pop stars ran the world, those in the female form would have the liberty to be half naked and flawless. I don't mind nudity, I think it's great. But the expectation is that men should not look or marvel at the magic and majesty of the female form. And if they are not looking, I've heard plenty of men report that women then say to them, "Oh, there must be something wrong with you." Or, "What's wrong with me that you're not salivating at the sight of me?" Patriarchy has done men in and caused men problems just as much as it has caused women problems. But there's also extremes to women's liberation that have done women no favors either when it comes to healthy, sustainable partnerships with men or those in masculine energy, if that is what you seek. These single sided systems, patriarchy or matriarchy, are not the solution. The pendulum culturally will always swing far to the left and far to the right before finding center. This season, where we have an initiation of new masculine energy, is going to allow us to find center by connecting our internal masculine energies to source and allowing ourselves to redefine it for ourselves, regardless of body, regardless of identification. Okay. This season will be the advent of a counter revolution and liberation for men, those in the male form and those in male energy, that will help them catch up with where modern women have been and allow them to self define what masculinity looks like in a way that is empowering for them, because it liberates them from the limitations of who they could be based on patriarchy, but it also allows them to identify with being a whole self with another person, in particular with those who identify in feminine form, not just who the feminine energy wants him to be or what society tells him to be. As this unfolds, more who identify as men will find it easier to partner with women. But it's also going to take those who identify in the feminine form letting go of the old ideas of masculinity during this season and letting the man before you and in your life be a whole person, a whole person worthy of love, connection, dignity, self defined identity, dreams beyond breadwinning, emotions beyond ambition, anger, or lust, and allowed to wear colors other than blue, green, gray, stripes, or plaids, and clothes beyond pants or just a tie, just because they're human. In other words, it's going to take allowing those in masculine energy and masculine form to have the very same things that women have fought for without women losing love, respect, and affinity with them. So here are some experiences I was shown people will go through as this unfolds. Number one, for many in this new access point to union energy through the Aries gateway, that first masculine sign of the zodiac, for many in this energy, this is going to open up union timelines because the divine masculine energy between you both, not the person, but the energy, will be able to catch up with the divine feminine energy. And this will have been the last piece of liberation. This was all it took, detaching both of you from the way you ran your energy, specifically your masculine energy, from the old paradigms of masculine and feminine that created externally identified roles. But in particular, it's the detachment from old definitions of masculinity that your connection needed in order to come together. So here's just two out of numerous examples that we'll begin to see. Hosting more feminine energy while simultaneously being the breadwinner, and your ambition and drive supporting the two of you in the third dimension. Alternatively, you might be hosting more masculine energy in the connection while simultaneously taking on historically feminine roles of maintaining the quality and health of the connection's emotional and spiritual realms, initiating and guiding more of the challenging conversations to sustain harmony in the connection. This can extend to, but it's not limited to, homemaking or child rearing. Those are duties you may both share in this new energy. The second thing I was shown many will experience is there will be a shedding of connections that were easy to conflate with the construct twin flame, given the mass culture toxicity associated with the term, where these connections may not have ever been activated by divine love, but rather connections that were catalytic for soul growth. Those who find connections dissolving in this energy and people moving into a period of integration regarding a coming home to self, understand that there is love available to you on the other side of this dissolution. This will include the dissolution of bonds known as ascension partners, false twins, maybe soulmates, karmics, trauma bonds, etc. This new energy will cause a dissolution of many of these connections where they are not sustained by actual love. This release will be organic, nothing will be required, but there will be a recognition that the relationship has run its course. It is done in both people's hearts. It is important to say that what bonds people in these types of connections will dissolve, but that does not mean that people will break up. If you recognize yourself to be in one of these connections where what glued you together has dissolved, it will be up to you to, with your own masculine energy, honor your heart, live your truth without getting caught up in the worldly definitions of masculine duty and obligation, dying for the sustaining of the thing instead of living for love. Becoming living love is thematically what we're up to as divine counterparts. So, living in a relationship where that is missing is going to become increasingly more difficult without shutting that vital part of yourself down to survive in it, especially in the next 5 to 7 years. Number 3, and this has 3 parts to it, but let's take them one by one. This new chapter is allowing for those who identify in a masculine form or dominant masculine energy. You will be invited to cultivate your inner authority as human beings. This will be a recalibration of your male compass here on earth as each male or masculine energy recalibrates to his personal compass, to his true nature as the divine incarnate. There are three things I was shown would happen. First is that we'll see new archetypes for masculinity emerging and being celebrated and accepted as normal. One of the challenges for men who were not at the extremes of patriarchal oppression and did not enjoy the privilege of feminine subjugation was figuring out where to source truth about what a man can be. If you're a man and you knew that there had to be a better way to engage with women, and there was no model for what a man could be when he wasn't solidifying power imbalances with his choices, that model will begin to emerge in the men around you and through and within yourself. This will be a period where we see many of these men come forward with some new archetypes for masculinity that don't require feminine oppression for self definition or creative authority. The second thing I was shown would happen as men recalibrate their inner compass. Because the models for a more balanced masculine energy were not prioritized in popular culture before now, many men, and you may recognize this to be yourself, sourced their identity about what kind of man to be from women. This next chapter for masculine dominant identities is going to release the need for feminine approval to source your creative authority. This season will be a time when, if you identify as a man or in male form or male energy, if you sought validation and refuge in women's guidance for your masculinity, you'll have an inclination, an itch, an urge to depart from women saying what you should do, who you can be, and sourcing guidance about where you can go from women. And instead, you'll begin to plug directly into God, directly into Creator, directly into Source within you for that information. You'll find that that information is loud, unignorable. And as long as you are not avoiding it or blocking it or judging it, it will be easier and easier to express as you take each action. This will be a season where those who identify in male energy or male form have the opportunity to create and strengthen your inner creative authority for your definition of masculinity and manhood and your definition of self. This will be very empowering for men who've carried a lot of guilt and responsibility for the wrongs of other men. If you've known yourself not to be the abusive, oppressive, power mongering type of man, if you felt you had to answer for or be better than men who were like that by living according to the dictates of what women said they wanted, this is where you'll find you release women's approval as the source of validation and turn toward God within and source for that. The third thing I was shown would happen as there is this recalibration of inner creative authority and compass for men. Third thing I was shown would happen would be this, like I said, a resetting of inner compass for masculine identified people. And this will mean there will be an organic letting go of extreme themes of masculinity around extreme competition, dominance, and control, a release of fear in general as a motivator, but specifically fear of unworthiness, releasing achievement as a marker of worthiness, releasing of unforgiveness and grudge holding as protection, releasing of emotional two dimensionality, and policing of other male energies and how they man or don't man. These releases will automatically make space for embracing cooperation and collaboration, equity and inclusion, becoming defenders and protectors of freedom and self expression, and acceptance of self and other, a disillusion of worthiness as access to experience. So, detaching worthiness from money, detaching worthiness from love, detaching worthiness from shelter and access to family, and instead an embracing of havingness, enoughness as your birthright as a child of the Creator. There will be an organic turning toward the future and possibility, exploring inherent capacity and capabilities with greater curiosity and ease. So, if you're musical or artistic or in any other way, anything that wasn't considered man enough, but you were gifted with that capacity and capability, there will be an organic willingness to explore it now and to allow that to open up as an expression of the divine through you. Emotional multidimensionality will unfold here, as well as a plurality of expressions of masculinity. Ultimately, this season is where men can embrace being the divine man incarnate, which again, only ultimately will reset the magnetics in all connections for union, as those in male form, male energy, come into union within. Your world around you will assume the same pattern for union as well. Number 4, if you're in a female body and you're listening to this, or predominantly feminine energy, and you're thinking, yeah, that sounds good. How do I support all the men in my life with this? What do I do? How can I help? Should I send the men that I love this video so that they know what they should be doing? The answer to all of these questions is simple. Do nothing. Stop trying to participate. Stop trying to support. Stop trying to guide, lead, and direct a process that is theirs to have with the Creator. It is unfolding whether you intervene or not, intend it to or not, even if your conscious mind doesn't think it is or cannot see it. It is already underway. I've been shown it began actually back in 2018 with some peaks in 2022. And we will see major movement in the third dimension between 2023 actually, and 2028. At the root of all this, here's the thing. For those of us in feminine form or feminine body, feminine energy, it is really necessary to release all orientation to coaching, correcting, and criticizing with the men in your life and with yourself. Release the constructs that somehow they have to heal, that they have to grow, that they have to somehow be different. Release the ideas that somehow you have to lead it, that you somehow are the savior. At the root of all of this is the core belief that something is wrong with them. And the less you hold that idea as true, the less true it will be in what you see reflected back to you in your interactions. So instead, if there's anything you can do in the world of quote unquote participation, it is this: focus on acceptance, focus on approval, focus on appreciation of both their current personhood and process, and seek the wisdom in the way that it's unfolding. There is benefit in this release for your life stream if you are willing to see it. Number 5, as some who identify in feminine dominant identities are hearing these first few messages, you may already have some light bulbs going off. I was shown that this will become, for those who've been very invested in the process of with their person, a bit of a quiet time. You may recognize that this is why your person stopped talking, stopped letting you be a part of their process, because it was their process, and you may have had more emotional and energetic investment in it that was blocking the direct access to source, given a history your person may have had with sourcing approval, acceptance, and direction for masculine energy from women instead of from within. So, in order for them to access this information from source, if your voice has been louder than source's voice, you will find at this time, this is a season when these people in masculine energy, form, or body will have pulled their process offline. Because whether it was you, mom, sisters, daughters, other women they've dated, there may have been too many women poking and prodding at his process directly and energetically. The wisdom in pulling the process offline and going insular into the cocoon here for both people is that the masculine dominant energy gets to grow at the pace its humanity can handle without anybody wondering why you're not moving faster. And the feminine energy gets to learn the true definition of focus on yourself, because the masculine is so elsewhere, the feminine can't focus there if she wanted to. She'll have to strengthen and source her own masculinity for balance and wholeness. And this will ultimately create an inner union within those who have traditionally been more feminine identified that will reset the magnetics of your connection for greater union with this person, because you've cultivated your own masculine energy in a more balanced way. It will be important to release identifying with being abandoned in this and instead embrace independence and the power inherent in it, using another's need for independence while they work the process of resetting their inner compass to relive abandonment wounds and abandonment storylines will be very disempowering to your feminine identity and take you further away from union access. Instead, you can intentionally choose to mirror the independence and explore where your inner masculine compass needs resetting around your own access to masculine energy and your own creative authority by connecting directly to source for guidance around this. So, in summary, for this point, if you want to help, I'll say embrace the quiet and the silence. The more you allow another person to have their process, the faster this is going to go. All you have to do is keep your eyes and your heart set on highest possible outcomes and timelines, the most beautiful possible resolutions, and the supremacy of divinity, God, source, guiding the humanity in each of you as your spirit evolves keep focused on the truth of who they are as a divine creator being incarnate, and that they do figure things out. They did before you, and they will now. Number 6, the sixth thing I was shown that would happen as more of us, all of us really, have a resetting of our internal masculine compass is that there's going to be access to union through authenticity. As the inherent freedom and the resetting of our inner masculine compasses continues to unfold, union with a counterpart will become easier and easier as there is less and less from the culture and external world standing in the way of it with expectations and shoulds. Whereas before, there was a lot more flexibility for connections to thrive, perhaps in a little bit of inauthenticity for the good of the connection. This is actually going to prove corrosive the closer we get to 2027 and 2028. And lastly, number 7, for men who recognized that perhaps your mother pulled away from you or just changed as you became an older boy or a young man, somewhere between the ages of 11 and 14, when if maybe mom disconnected or didn't know how to be with your self individuation. If you recognize this or the patterns that stem from abandonment from a mother figure as you came into adolescence, either emotionally or physically, if those patterns are alive within you, you'll be guided through a reckoning and growth process that will liberate you to have more fulfilling connections with people, and that will allow you and your romantic connections to be more balanced, right? And this will be with both men and women, where there are people in your world, in particular those in feminine energy and feminine form, who have done a lot of withholding of connection when you're not performing the version of man that they want from you. You'll find that those connections will begin to disintegrate as that childhood wound heals. Okay. For some men, this may invite you into a period of celibacy as you release decades of programming from the women you may have outsourced your emotional authority to, or outsourced emotional connection to, or outsourced creative authority to. The celibacy journey may be especially appealing to those men who only have had access to emotional connection and creative authority when it was alignment with performing masculinity with the dictates of what women around you wanted, or you only got access to emotional connection through sex. The consecrated time that will organically unfold to sexually detox from those older paradigms of interaction with women are going to allow you to remember who you are as these programs that aren't yours fall away by allowing you to hear your own song, remember you, and dance to your own song in your own way. So if there was any mother trauma that you can identify that has created for you unhealthy relating to feminine energy, this season is when it may begin to heal. There will be an organic opportunity to heal it. And if you find that sex is just uninteresting while this takes place, allow that to happen. Nothing's wrong here. You're just detoxing so that you have the opportunity to create and source what kind of man or male energy you'd like to be going forward. Okay. All right, that is the conclusion of part two of these messages. I sincerely hope that this has been of service to you, illuminating to you, providing some validation to you for what you may be experiencing or seeing. These are the messages that I've gotten so far. I'm sure as we progress, there will be more and more messages that show themselves. But hopefully, for now, this has provided a starting point that allows you to understand where are the access points for union now that this union window has closed. Thank you so much for all of your likes, shares, and subscribes. They mean the world to me. It's very helpful to help the content circulate when you share these pieces of information with your friends who may be needing to hear it. Take great care and bye for now.